Good morning, everybody. Happy Monday and welcome to the Rangers Review morning briefing for Monday, the 14th of November. I'm Derek Clark and I'm joined this morning all the way across the pond by Graeme Hanna. How are we doing, Graeme?
Good morning, Derek. Feeling okay this morning, but from a Rangers perspective, the glass is half empty. There's no other way of putting it. Very disappointing result again on Saturday, but yeah, we need to just get on with things as they are.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll talk all things Rangers in a minute, folks. But before we do so, just a bit of housekeeping. As you can see, the little ticker below, you can see we've got that great offer on the website just now, rangersreview.co.uk/subscribe for all the details. Just £1, for 2 months worth of content. We're practically giving it away, so do head over and check it out. You won't be disappointed. Lots of great content on there. Right, Graeme, let's talk about the weekend. Unfortunately, another disappointing draw, you have to say. Performance-wise, it was much of the same. Rangers dropping 2 points in Paisley against St Mirren. They fell behind, as has been the norm for much of the matches recently. James Tavernier with a penalty late on, but Rangers were unable to find a winner, and they fell 9 points behind leader Celtic by the close of the day. It's intensified the pressure on Giovanni van Bronckhorst to a point now where there's lots of rumours and noise and speculation that he's not going to be returning to the club. I know he's flew back to Holland for a bit of a break to see his family, who are, of course, over there. First of all, Graeme, your assessment of the weekend.
It's the film we've all seen before, wasn't it? Going back to last week, it was imperative for 9 points out of 9 after St Johnstone. You're thinking, okay, it's not what we need, but obviously then it needs to be 2 wins, to finish off the week. We got the win against Hearts, but I just think the manager's position is untenable after another disappointment, another lackluster performance, and several things, Derek. It's the result. It's the performance, impressions of more disharmony within the team. On Saturday, there was seemingly an incident with Glenn Kamara. A couple of eyewitness reports at the games of words being said back to the bench. In terms of making a case for Gio to stay, it's very difficult. I know there's talk of injuries and maybe getting time the way Steven Gerrard did, but Gerrard had several things in his favour. There was, in his own way, there was European progress. There was putting the marker down against Celtic, but how long can we kick the can down the road with Gio? And it's just, for me, and even thinking objectively, it's just too difficult to make a case for him to stay. And time's up for me, and I think that would be a very widespread opinion. Out there from the Rangers supporters, there would be very few, that would be making a case. It's okay to say maybe he deserves time, or perhaps he's been unlucky with one thing or another, but in terms of the evidence that we see in front of us, it's too much. And maybe some would say give him till January. There's 3 or 4 big games before Celtic come to Ibrox on the 2nd. We're middle of November, when we're staring down the barrel. So I think the game's up. So now we wait. We're in this flux situation with the break. The players and the coaching staff are on holiday. So we very much wait and see what happens.
Yeah. Interesting. You touched on the fact that this There's some people that are claiming he should get more time, a la Gerrard, like you mentioned, Graeme. Not many, but one of those is ex-Rangers defender Maurice Ross. He's come out, folks. I'll read you what he said about it. He said, "You're not going to tell me Giovanni van Bronckhorst isn't a good manager. I'm not buying into that. For me, it would be crazy to sack Giovanni. You might get a wee bump with a new man coming in, but after 4 or 5 weeks, you'd still be left with the same players, showing the same traits and the same lack of execution. Gerrard got time. Maybe that's because he had a sexier name than Gio, even though Gio played for Arsenal and Barcelona and won more than 100 caps for Holland. But Gio played for the club, so I'd have thought he should deserve more time. Let's remember that Gerrard presided over a period when Celtic won 2 trebles. The club was classy, though. They knew what the end goal was and got their reward in stopping 10 in a row. But right now, sacking Gio and bringing in another manager won't change a thing, because at the end of the day, you've still got the same group of players." What do you make of those comments, Graeme? I think there's an element of truth in that with regards to Gerrard was afforded time. Celtic were cleaning up, it's fair to say, but the board did stick with them and he did deliver 55. Does that argument sort of ring true now, or are Rangers in a different space than what they were a few years ago?
Very much, because as the point was made there, the target and the end goal, was that first landmark title was 55. Regardless of Celtic and what they were doing, it was about Rangers recovery, Rangers renewal and resurgence. The end goal was clear. It was winning the league and then kicking on. We don't have an end goal now. There's no mission. The club is rudderless on the pitch. There are big questions that need to be answered off the pitch. And indeed, the AGM coming up is going to be very spicy in a couple of weeks. This team, is at the end of its cycle. For many intents and purposes, if not all, this is still Gerrard's team, with a couple of additions here and there, over the last year or so. Last season's Europa League final was fantastic and wonderful in many ways. But, hindsight's always a wonderful thing. But these players have been asked to go to the well one too many times, and we're seeing the outworkings of it right now. Look at Alfredo Morelos on Saturday. His application, his body language, his demeanour. He should have been playing for himself first and foremost, and for the fans. But straight away, the shoulders are up, the head slumped. He was very lucky to see out the full game.
Yeah.
In terms of the team, 8-9 players out of contract. Big questions to be asked. Kent and Morelos contract situations. Players that have come in almost needed to play through injury. There's no two ways about it. It's a mess on the pitch. But the thing that rankles with me, Derek, is that Gio is not getting the best out of these players. Even, we know they're past their peak, but he's not getting the best out of them. Another thing Steven Gerrard had in his favour, he had a mix of people and personas around him in Mick Beale, in Gary McAllister, in Tom Culshaw. There was the almost good cop, bad cop routine. At the moment, we've just got 4 guys sitting on a bench with their arms folded, often looking, at Carrick. That's okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
But the guys beside him, Dave Voss, Kerry Bully, Roy Mackay, they are too similar. So there's many issues just now. And there's maybe a wee bit of merit in what Mo Ross was saying, but overall, we almost need a clean slate. It could be that we even need. Ideally, it wouldn't be the situation, but we could even need a temporary fix until the end of the season. But with that, you're almost writing the season off to an extent. But it's just we're in a bad situation, and we need answers, and we need the right answers.
Yeah, Katic Loyal 72 gets in touch, Graeme. He says, Graham's connection is worse than the connection between Gio and his players. We lost you just for a periodically there, Graeme, but we've got you back. The old Belfast broadband playing up this morning, but yeah, good to have you back. Listen, it's good points that you raise there. There's no doubt about it. And let's get to some of the comments that are coming in as well. Denzel gets in touch. Morning, Denzel. Can't continue, but I fear it will. Current board say the club is a money-making exercise. Results plainly don't matter. There is a feeling amongst the fans that, 9 points behind, Graeme. It was just 2 points a couple of weeks ago. And there was a feeling if you can get to this World Cup break, just 2 points behind, and then reset, regroup, and then go again, get those injured players back. The manager has been speaking about that in press conferences prior to St Mirren. However, it's all gone pear-shaped. Points dropped against Livingston, St Johnstone, and now St Mirren. And 9 points behind at this stage of the season. It's effectively 10 with Celtic's superior goal difference. Is the league salvageable? If they make a change managerial, can you see them getting back into this title race?
Right now, no.
Yeah. It
could happen, but in order for that to be anywhere remotely possible, we would need for, let's be honest, someone else to come in to lead the team. We would need 2 or 3 additions to come in to galvanise the team. We would need Rangers results to be almost perfect and Celtic to drop a few points to make it competitive. So all of that needs to happen. In terms of probability, it speaks for itself. So it's difficult to see, and that is, that's a sore one to take. On the 13th, 14th of November. Yeah,
such a long way to go, but just the gap just seems insurmountable at this point in time. And I have been hearing some comments. Who was it? I can't remember who it was. In fact, I think it was Borna who was speaking about it after the Hearts win, saying they still have to play Celtic 3 times. When I hear that those sort of words uttered, Graeme, I do shudder, because that's when you know you're in desperate times. When you're thinking to yourself, you need to win all the Old Firm games to get back into the title race. Listen, it's a tough ask, and at the moment, Giovanni van Bronckhorst is the Rangers manager. Whether he's in the dugout when the team come back, of course, we've got that friendly against Bayer Leverkusen on the 10th of December before competitive action returns with the visit of Hibs on the 15th. Now, you touched on, Graeme, and this has been some rumours over the weekend about a fallout between Glenn Kamara and Giovanni van Bronckhorst. Dave Easton says, "Hi, Dave. Morning, lads. Dying to hear what your thoughts are after that performance, i.e. Kamara downing tools." I've read that it was a falsehood, and it's differing reports from the weekend, Graeme. However, it's not ideal seeing things like this emerge. No Kamara was replaced at half-time at the break, but he is another one. You touched on Alfredo Morelos before, and he's not alone in this, but he's not been anywhere near the level of player that we know he can be this season. Is there a feeling maybe for him that he's perhaps mentally checked out?
I would think, that's likely. We need to roll back also to the summer transfer window with Glenn Kamara. There was interest, there was genuine interest in Glenn Kamara. A move was possible, and a move was close for him. In terms of player trading and moving players on at the right time, I just find it amazing that Gio held on to a player who hasn't been a mainstay. And even on Saturday, trying him a bit further forward, maybe in the 8 position, although sometimes he's played even further forward. Yes, there was some limited joy experimenting with Kamara. The obvious one was the big goal against RB Leipzig in the semi-final. But it's clear that Kamara's time is up. He has been tremendous value. He has been a success. He has, but I think for his sake and for Rangers, it is time to move on. Scott Kearney says he hasn't played decent for months. I remember the performance in Eindhoven, when he's doing his moving and his swiveling that he does best on the European stage. And you can see he's clearly a player of talent.
Yes.
But often in the rough and tumble of the Scottish Premiership, he can appear like a fish out of water at times. He hasn't overly been used by Gio. And I read after the weekend that was the third time recently that he's been brought off at half time.
Yeah.
So it's just not working out clearly. There are issues there. The club will always present a united front, and they're not going to speak too openly in press conferences. But we're not daft. There's reading between the lines. We can see certain things around a match day. Clearly, things aren't what they were, what they should be. So I think there's a good possibility of the players who may be moving on in January, that Glenn Kamara could be one of those.
Yeah, I tend to agree with that. Now, we touched on Alfredo Morelos earlier, Graeme. Now, his performance has come in for heavy criticism. I've got a piece on the website this morning, folks, saying that Rangers should halt any contract talks they have currently with El Buffalo based on what's been served up at the moment. His performance at the weekend, he was afforded an opportunity given the injury sustained by Antonio Cholak, a real chance to show the manager that he deserves a more regular game time and a starting place. And he was woeful, Graeme. He looks disinterested. There's talk about his weight issues. Chris Boyd was scathing in his assessment after the game. Neil McCann has also waded in as well. Where does Alfredo Morelos go from here? It's a sad demise for me watching him, because he's another one. We got a bounce off him when Van Bronckhorst came in initially, got injured up at Dens Park, and he's not come back anywhere near the level of player that Rangers should expect from one of the highest earners at the club.
Yeah, absolutely. We think back to last season, the game at St Mirren, where he got his header and ended up, jumping basically into the stand, into the supporters. There was that passion, the fire in the belly. Where was that on Saturday? It's bad enough for Rangers, and looking back his current career with us, but you got to think overall. Where does he go next? Entirely, who would be watching this form of Alfredo Morelos and thinking that that's the striker we want? So at the moment it's okay. Thinking maybe cash in, take what money is available. I can't see there being too big of a queue at the moment. But professionalism first and foremost. It's pride for himself. But you use the word woeful there, Derek, and it really was. Very few touches that I remember inside the St Mirren box. There was a couple of layoffs here and there. I remember a few going out left to Barisic and to Kent. But prime Alfie. Bullying defenders. Roughing the opposition up. Playing on the lines as he did. But his first, it wasn't even a meaningful contribution. But the first thing he done, was get involved in a tangle.
Yeah.
With one of the St Mirren defenders, Gallagher, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And as the game, the early stages, right? Come on, right? We need to see something. But the more the game went on, the frown on his face. The typical Alfredo that we don't want to see. That was all we got. There was nothing to be positive about, given how much he's been kicking his heels on the bench, and with justification. He probably hasn't played as much as he should, but the Dundee League Cup game wasn't much better. And then today, he came today on Saturday. He came in from the start. It's always, whether it's Gio or whoever it may be, he's not going to play games when that is the outcome. So his situation is very intriguing. Why would Rangers offer a very substantial contract to him when there's no guarantee that the Morelos that has done so well over the years would be returning. So it's another major talking point, another one to watch. But as with many aspects of the club just now, there are more questions than answers.
Yeah, there certainly is. One person who's got his glass half full is Scott's Wilder, good friend of the show. Hi, buddy. I know it feels bad at the moment, Bears, but we have been through way worse than this in recent times, and we will be back on top soon. I've no doubt about it, but at the moment, it's hard to see in the here and now how Rangers get back into the title race first and foremost, and improve on what they're giving us at the moment. It has been a pretty hard season to watch thus far. That's for sure. Let's get to some more of the comments that are coming in. This by Aldo, and I've seen this last night, Graeme. I'm not too sure if you've seen it. Niko Katic with an Alan Shearer-esque volley from the edge of the penalty area. No idea what he was up there for FC Zurich, but what a finish that is, folks. I do urge you to go and check it out. It was a beauty, wasn't it?
Oh, pile driver. The clip just cuts in, as the ball's being played to him. But I'm thinking, was he late getting back from a corner or what? But the technique, where did that come from?
Yeah, absolutely sensational. Who knew he had that in his locker? But but wish him well. Of course, he loved his time at Rangers, and you'll always get those supporters, Graeme, that say that they should never have let him go, especially looking at the defensive injury crisis at the moment. Of course, Leon King taken off on Saturday. We are told he's recovering well. There is a concussion protocol, folks, now. Down in England, I'm sure it's 9 days before you can return to action. I'll double check what it is in Scotland as well. I'm sure it's relatively the same, but it was a worrying sight on Saturday, Graeme, wasn't it? Seeing him getting stretchered off, but we wish him well. But it just adds, it never rains but it pours when it comes to injuries in Rangers this season, doesn't it? Especially in the back line.
Yeah, it wasn't pleasant to see in the immediate aftermath of the collision. He barely moved. There was a wee bit of movement of his arm. You could see there was no more serious alarm, but you knew it was significant. The physios were being quite careful with him once they signalled for the stretcher. It was looking ominous. Thankfully he's okay in that regard. It's a relief that we are now in this period, because we don't have any fit centre halves. It's a terrible situation.
Yeah.
But on that can't just be down to luck, and I know maybe fuel and speculation and whatever else, but throughout the team, with players going down, with muscle injuries, toiling fitness in certain games, all isn't seems. Rangers need to get to the bottom of that and quickly.
Yeah.
But just getting back to Leon King, all the best to him. Unfortunately, Saturday, it wasn't one of his better games. But we need to remember that he's in at the deep end. He's probably played more than what he should. He's not the finished article. He's still developing. He's probably a wee bit ahead of schedule in that regard. And, how many around the elite, look at John Stones down at Man City, came through, very early. When he played in the Premier League and for Guardiola, he wasn't as good as he was going to be. You're never going to get a central defender who is playing to the top of their potential at 18. He's done okay. Saturday wasn't a good performance. I'm not deflecting from that. But we need to be realistic. The only way players in positions like that are going to get better is by playing. So we need to be, we need to apply some contacts with Leon King, who has pulled this team and Gio out of a big hole. And arguably, he has been, played a bit too much, but it's been because of the circumstances as well. So, all the best to him over the next couple of weeks. Hopefully all will be well for his recovery.
Yeah, absolutely. It has been thrown in at the deep end, and he's effectively learning on the job. Mistakes will happen, as we've seen on Saturday, but he is only 18 years of age. Just a club statement yesterday on his condition read that Leon King suffered a concussion in the second half of yesterday's match and was taken to hospital for assessment. Leon was discharged from hospital late yesterday afternoon with advice. Today, Leon is sore but well. He'll now rest completely and follow a graded return to play under the supervision of the medical team. So we wish Leon all the best in getting back up to fitness. And by the time the team come back around, touch wood, Graeme, we should have a number of players back. And now it's not just injuries to players that are on the fringes or not key players. These are proper starters in the first team now. I think the likes of Tom Lawrence has been the big one for me that Rangers have missed in that midfield role. He's been huge. Other than that, I think Connor Goldson has been a big loss. I think we see just how much Rangers rely on him when he's not in the side. Those, for me, are the big ones. I've sort of discounted the likes of Hollander and Roof. They're injured more than they're available, really. So they're ones that if they come back, then you expect them to break down at some point in the near future. And I think it will be advisable, to try and find new suitors for them. But for me, Goldson and Lawrence are the ones that Rangers need to get back fit by the time they return.
Yes, absolutely. They have been sorely missed. And, if I can add to the doom and gloom for a second, how much of a difference overall would even Goldson and Lawrence have made in recent times? It's okay. It's okay saying, we've a list of injuries with several players unavailable, but those two, Goldson and Lawrence, they're the two big hitters that you would say, who would be playing, who you would be looking, to make a difference. But, they're not going to change the team around completely. As you say, Derek, there's guys on the fringes, Hollander and Roof, who haven't played any meaningful role this season or under Gio at all, given how far back their issues go. Yanis Hadji has been a miss, but his has been a long-term injury. Like John Suter as well. Ben Davies has been in and out. Seemingly there's another injury there that is being managed. But Goldson is a leader. Alan is right. But given all of the issues combined and collectively, two players, unfortunately, are not going to make a difference to turn this Rangers team at present into something that it's not. I don't know if you want to have a go, Derek, but in terms of right here, right now, how many of this team would you say would be and should be nailed on starters on the first game of next season?
Well, there's a number of them out of contract, isn't there? So, yeah, and Gio was asked this interestingly, because he did say after the Champions League, it's all about learning and coming back next year and using that learning experience. But then he was asked, well, how many of this squad will be available next year? And it's hard to put your finger on it. I think there's going to be many that are going to leave the club, and I think should. Surgery is required. I think at this moment in time, you can't really put your finger on it at the moment. James Tavernier, of course, has signed a long-term contract recently. You'd imagine he'll be around. That aside, Antonio Cholak is another one you'd imagine. And then who else? I'm struggling. I'm racking my brains, Graeme. I'm not entirely sure. Leon King, perhaps, and then
exactly.
And then
it's a point many of the viewers, can ponder it in their own time. We'll maybe get a couple of comments coming in. There's Ross saying Lundstrom is the only one.
But he's been poor this season as well. He'll be the first to hold his hand up, I think, and say that he's been nowhere near the player that he was in the second half of last season.
Frustratingly very hot and very cold at the moment, John Lundstrom. 1 minute he's unplayable, and the next, he's suffering the very same slump as the rest. Yilmaz, yes, but we haven't seen enough of him. Yes, no. Of course, we would expect, given the outlay and the potential, but it just...
It's a hard one.
It's a very hard one. Any new manager coming in, it's very close to blank canvas territory. But at the same time, what is the finance like to build a team? So, happy Monday, new week, lots of problems and all the rest. But look, this is the situation that we have. The powers that be at Ibrox need to be accountable for this. It's not good enough. As you said there, Derek, Gio couldn't answer, and he can't answer how many players will be here next season. But unfortunately, we don't get regular press conferences with Ross Wilson. So, someone needs to answer. Someone needs to be accountable for this situation that the club is in, that the team is in at present. And we're seeing the outworkings of this on the pitch at the moment in many aspects, and it's far from pretty. And I would rather be talking about another great performance and a lead at the top of the table and looking forward. But unfortunately, where most of us are glad of a wee bit of a break in terms of the games. But this is the situation we have. It's a mess.
Yeah, there's a lot of work to be done. Going forward, Dave Fulton, I sort of tend to agree with him. He says Tav, Goldson, Ridvan, Lundstrom, Hadji, Lawrence and Cholak are all I'd want at the start of next season. It remains to be seen what that squad will look like come next summer. And some of the comments coming in here. Ian McNabb says, will the Rangers review be taking a break for 5 weeks? No, Ian, we'll be here every single day to talk all things Rangers, so don't worry about that. There's always things to talk about when it comes to Rangers. So, we'll be here Monday to Friday. And we got a Newcastle fan tuning in. He says, don't worry, chaps, the Toon are smashing the Prem up there. They certainly are, Richard, doing fantastically well under Eddie Howe down there. I've been really impressed. A good win at the weekend as well against Chelsea. And I think he said himself the break comes at a bad time for them. But good to have your company on this Monday morning. Okay, folks, that'll do us there. Just a reminder, we've got that tremendous offer on the website, just £1 for 2 months worth of content. Head over to rangersreview.co.uk/subscribe for all the details. And as you can see, the little sticker there on our screen, you can subscribe to our YouTube channel as well, which is completely free. So many of you doing so thanks very much for that, and I'm glad that you're enjoying the content. And as I mentioned earlier on, the players I think are away for a couple of weeks break, but we'll be here every day to talk about all the events coming out of Ibrox, and if there's any announcement with anything to do with the manager or whatever else, we'll be here at any time to bring you all the reaction from that. But until tomorrow, when we'll be back again, enjoy the rest